we're not talking a lot of music this week. We're saving it for next week, but we did want to mention this Beast Coast album that came out. We've been kind of leading up to it and anticipating it for a little bit. I think we talked about it on the pod that this was going to be coming out. You know, a team up of the Underachievers, Flatbush Zombies, Pro Era, and they dropped Escape from New York this past Friday. What were your thoughts? I know that you were highly anticipating this.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen all of these artists live. I think I've seen Joey 4 times, I think. So I was a big fan of all of them as their own entities for a very long time. And the Beast Coast movement has been a thing for a while too. But the culmination in terms of a true like group / collective effort has been much hyped. And with a lot riding on it, I was actually a really big fan of this. I thought they delivered. It didn't. There were a bunch of things I was worried might happen in terms of it feeling samey or stale or old. But no, I think as all these artists have evolved throughout their careers, you see that, you hear that on this album. I think that was great choice. It seems like they put a lot of time into making this the way they've put a lot of time into honing their craft. So I was a big fan. I mean, what did you think as someone who's not as hardcore as me?
Yeah, I thought this was a very good album. Not one of the best of the year for me, but I thought it was well made. It flowed really well. I was a little bit surprised that the energy level was not really high the whole time. I guess I was kind of expecting that going in. So then, you know, after the first 2 or so songs, I hit this stretch from Problems to Snow in the Stadium, which is this very like reggae influenced song.
Yes.
And it's actually very like mellowish, you know, in terms of the beat and just the overall feeling in the songs. And I was kind of like, this is different than what I was expecting, but it's still really well done. And I actually thought the production on this was like some of the best of the year, because I felt like even though the songs feel very singular, and this is something we talked about with Igor last week, I still feel like they flowed really well. Like particularly in the back half of the album, the transition from Distance to Bones, it's like one of the smoothest transitions from songs on that I can like really remember, when the songs aren't actually just like together. It was really awesome. So some great moments in this. I thought very solid overall, and I was pleased. It seems like you were as well.
Yeah, and to the beats, I mean, I was just actually running it back. Not all the credits are public yet, but Powers Pleasant from Pro Air, the producer, he made a few of them. But actually, Eric, the architect, Eric Elliott from Flatbush Zombies, made I think 4 of the beats, and he's always been known as like the polymath of Flatbush Zombies. Makes the beats and raps well. But it's kind of cool that I think there's another producer duo that's on a few of these songs too. I didn't recognize their name. But it's cool that there's a bunch of different producers and that it still sounds really cool, because I was expecting it to be like all Powers or something. But I mean, this album, you know, it's hard to make a group album work well because there's just so many voices, and they're all unique enough that, you know, it can just kind of sound like you're just stringing verses and cutting and pasting them together, right? I mean, there's 4 Pro Era guys rapping on this. Underachievers is a duo. Flatbush is a trio. That's a lot of people, and I think overall they kind of spread the wealth pretty well. It felt like I think Joey and maybe Nick Caution were probably at the lower end in terms of just less verses, but I never felt like any of the songs were just like, all right, let's add the CJ verse now to this song. Like nothing ever really wore out its welcome for me, which is, you know, you don't want everything to be 6 minutes long when you have this many guys. So I think they really, both the production and the sequencing and then just the overall song construction, just sounds like they put a lot of time into making this work and not overdoing anything, which again is just something we've seen often with albums with this many people involved.
Yeah, I was wondering, and I have an answer to this, but I was wondering if you felt like one group had more influence, or this sounded more like one of the group's albums more than a collective.
Definitely
Is that
Flatbush
question?
Zombies.
Yeah, that's what I felt like too. That felt like they had more of an influence on what this record actually sounded like than
Right.
Pro Era or the Underachievers.
Yeah, it sounds old. It's closest in sound to Vacation from Hell, Flatbush's album last year, which we reviewed, um, which I think is a good thing to model after because that was an album that I know we didn't love it, but it did what Flatbush has been famous for in terms of these dark, cloudy, introspective raps, but also is not opposed to adapting the sound to more modern things. And I think Meech is all over this. We already talked about Eric, his production. Actually, Juice actually surprised me. He does a lot of different hooks on this, and he doesn't immediately sound like himself. And then someone like Kirk Knight, who we also reviewed his last solo album, he has really adapted the past few years into being a bit more of a crossover hip hop artist, and he kind of fits right into what Flatbush was doing on their last album. So he fits right in. Does a lot of these hooks. I know Coast Clear. I think that was the second single. Didn't really do much for me as a single, but once I heard this at the end of the album, I actually really like that song now. And Kirk actually really impressed me because I was a bit iffy on him being crossover artist when we talked about that solo album. We got some hate on that review as a result, but I think he's kind of honed that a little bit, and it sounds a lot better on this. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I would love more Joey verses. I would love more Issa verses, but I think what we got is still really good.
Definitely very good. Any songs that particularly stand out to you?
Yeah, so you mentioned that there's the chill vibe, there's the third eye vibe that we come to expect from a lot of these guys. Not as much of the high energy that they initially bust on the scene for, right? However, when you get that high energy, it's fucking great because they
Mhm.
can still do it like they always have. I thought Bones was fucking epic.
Yes.
Flatbush Zombies, Issa's verses is fucking textbook him. 6ix9ine diss on there. I love hearing that from New York artists. By the way, I mean, I just wrote in my notes. Bones, holy shit. I love Nick's verse on Puke. Uh, mentioned Coast Clear. Rubber Band, I thought that hook was really good. Problems in the beginning, really, again, the chill vibe presents
Mhm.
itself early. Um, Left Hand, one of their lead singles, I think that song was still really well done. They performed that on late night, and it was cool live. But it doesn't, not all these songs, they don't all feel like, oh, this is the posse cut where we got 30 dudes on it, right? Like it just sounds like a big group album, and I think that's easier said than done. Also, shout out the track uh, length, 47 minutes, which
Mhm.
is a reference to the 47 lifestyle from the Pro Era uh, come up with capital Steez. That's a cool little Easter egg for the OG fans that most people won't pick up on. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I'm gonna run this back a lot.
Are you gonna catch them on tour?
That's the problem. I'm planning to be away when they're here. They're playing at an outdoor arena this time around, where I actually saw Joey once. So I want to go. I mean, I've seen all these guys before, but I've never seen them together all at once. I feel like this is kind of like a moment that won't be that easy to see after this year. So I probably should go.
Check out our playlist, Nowstalgia Best of 2019 on Spotify. We've already added Bones to the playlist, so you can take a taste there and then check out the rest of the album if you like it.